In this episode, Spider-Man becomes too obsessed in saving lives that he decides to upgrade his spider sense. He wants to sense every danger within the vicinity. However, at the end, it didn't go the way he wanted it to. Spider-Man is busy saving two residents from being burned to death inside a burning building. He stated that being a Spider-Man means always having to be in the right place at the wrong time. The woman in his arms screams as she notices that Spider-Man is running on the walls as they escape. Thanks to his spider sense, he can easily avoid dangers that may fall upon him, and it always tells Peter to do the craziest things. Yet, he easily trusts it. The main reason why Peter completely trusts his spider sense is that it helps him to save people as efficiently as possible. He safely brings the two people he saved down to the authorities who were waiting on the ground, ready to accept and treat survivors. A New York Fire Department firefighter thanks Spider-Man, and the web crawler asks if people are still inside the burning building. The firefighter confirmed there are still many inside, but there are too many to confirm. He added that his team couldn't get past the second floor due to the inferno inside, and hesitantly asked Peter, who immediately answers his request, leaping into action by entering the burning building again without fear in his voice. Thanks to Spider-Man's bravery and courage, he saved more people from the burning building. A young man, an elderly man, a young woman, a group of kids, and a dog were some residents the friendly neighborhood superhero could save from that location. After his second successful rescue, Spider-Man is assisted by a medical crew on location, giving him an oxygen breather while he rests. The medical crew offered to check Spider-Man's body for burns, but he politely declined, saying he was safe and sound. The firefighter who talked to Spider-Man earlier approached him and said that the fire was successfully put out, but he also asked if he could help out filing paperwork regarding the incident. Spider-Man was obviously stunned by it, and the firefighter said he had to ask. But before the two could continue, other firefighters came down with a resident's corpse there, saying they'd miss him on the fourth floor. The chief firefighter, who was talking to Spider-Man earlier, curses at what happened. Then a distraught woman approaches the body, saying his name after seeing the ring on his burnt hand. Spider-Man started to apologize to the wife of the deceased husband. Still, unsurprisingly, the woman went hysterical against Spider-Man, asking him why he didn't save her husband when he could have saved the dog. Trying to apologize further, Spider-Man's words were cut off after the woman said he's a superhero and should have saved him, asking him in the end why he couldn't. Then, two other individuals escorted the grieving woman named Martha out of the scene. The chief firefighter then assured Spider-Man that it wasn't his fault, and he already did all he could. Spider-Man asks humbly, and the firefighter tells him that he's been doing his job for 11 years and he puts his life on the line every time he does his job. However, he added that sometimes he will come up short no matter how hard he tries. The chief firefighter retold his past, wherein he could have saved a little girl. The chief firefighter couldn't reach the girl in time, haunting him while making him wish he had done better, wanting to forget about that bad memory. He was about to invite Spider-Man to a drink, wherein the web crawler had already left him. Upon arriving at his home, Peter removed the Spider-Man suit, showered, and went to bed. He then dreamed of a time when he talked with Aunt May and Uncle Ben, discussing the super collider he was building in his work recently. Uncle Ben praises Peter for his design being used as the basis of the super collider, while Aunt May happily comments on the wonderful things Peter has done in his working career. She then added that she is amazed that Peter still has time for her and Uncle Ben. Peter replies that he has always time for both Aunt May and Uncle Ben, to which Uncle Ben happily replies, saying that Peter got him worried for a second there, then suddenly speaks about the guy he misses on the fourth floor. Aunt May then asks Peter if he remembered him, the man he had missed earlier and was burned alive as a result. Before Peter can even realize what is happening, they all suddenly burst into flames, burning them alive as they painfully scream throughout the ordeal, and it ended up in a bright red flame that consumed them completely. Thankfully, it was only a nightmare, and Peter woke up with a scream, with a horrified look on his face. Confused and angry, Peter remembers that he should have the life he wanted, with Aunt May and his Uncle Ben still together in that life. Then, he blamed himself for letting the burglar go, and haven't stopped him when he could, asking what he was supposed to do. He then told himself that Uncle Ben died because he didn't use his powers during that time, and now that he's using his powers every day, he still can't save everyone. Deep in thought, thinking there must be a way, his eyes focus on his work ID. Meanwhile, in an unnamed bar, Maxwell Max Dillon, Electro's real human persona, talks with Rudy, his former buddy. They used to be both regular electricians. Rudy states that Max is now a big league supervillain and Max tells him he now goes by the name of Electro. Electro notices the roll of papers Rudy has in his hand and asks about it. Rudy then offers him a job wherein he tells him that he has recently installed high-end safes that use the same electrical grid. He then points out that Electro can easily shut those down and loot everything inside those safes, which Electro agrees is not a bad offer. Rudy made the mistake of making a 50-50 split, in which Electro glared at him dangerously. Rudy then changed the split, making it 70-30 in favor of Electro, reasoning out that he should give him a taste of the loot. At first, it seems that Electro agrees and makes a handshake with Rudy, but then he mercilessly electrocutes Rudy without an ounce of care. He left with the paper plans on hand, mocking a now burning Rudy for thinking that his offer would work. He then taunted him, saying that Electro always gives and gets 100%. On the other hand, Peter is now keeping himself busy inside his lab in Oscorp with the available tools and resources on hand. Norman Osborn notices and visits Peter Parker in his lab, asking what he is doing here in the lab. He added that Peter was draining a dangerous amount of power to his lab, reminding Peter that this is not how things are done in Oscorp. He sternly reminded Peter that his name was on the side of the building, and he would be blamed if anything bad happened, but not before being shocked by a group of spiders forming the word "Hi Boss" as he entered and saw their container. Peter then explained to a confused and shocked Norman that those spiders are from another dimension, saying that each of those spiders is all physically linked to one another. Those are the remaining spiders from the Spider-Man, a bunch of spiders that thought they were Peter Parker. While holding a Spider-Man helmet connected by wires, they are connected to the device on Peter's head. Peter then proceeds to demonstrate the connection of each spiders by raising his fist against them in a threatening manner. The spiders, sensing the immediate danger, scattered quickly to avoid the point of impact. Peter then halts and tells Norman that all the remaining spiders share a spider sense, knowing when each member of the colony is in danger. He then told Norman that he wanted that kind of power, since Peter reasoned that he needed to know when other people's lives were at stake, not just his anymore. Norman, unsurprisingly, rejects that desire of Peter, as he feels that it will lead him to the path of becoming someone else, like what happened to him when he became the Green Goblin. But Peter reasoned out that is why he needed his help, as he was the only one who could shut off his spider sense for some time, thanks to the weapons he created when he was a villain. Peter then tells Norman that they are the only two people that will know who have studied that phenomenon before, referring to his spider sense, and begs him to work with him. He then added that they could use the knowledge he gained as Green Goblin to good use for a change. Meanwhile, a younger Spider-Man-like individual is busy zipping the city streets of New York, complaining that he has been going around places for 2 hours now and can't find any proof of his existence in this world. He proclaims himself to be Spider-Boy, referring to the events of Edge of Spider-Verse issue number 3, and is cut off when he sensed a strong vibe coming from the direction of a burned building. He then landed on the remaining rooftop of the damaged building, touching the rooftop floor to sense anything, and he did not fail as he sensed Peter's memories regarding saving the people inside the building one night ago and failing to save one of them. He then thought it wasn't cool, and based on what happened, and Peter was about to do something monumentally stupid. In the end, Bailey proclaims that he will fix it up again. He further explains while running off that he is barely back in existence, which is how he spends his Thursday. Back at Peter's lab in Oscorp, Norman is holding the lever to a device connected to Peter's new high-tech Oscorp Spider-Man suit via wires on top of his helmet. Norman asks 2 questions. First, why do the remaining spiders share his brain patterns? Peter nonchalantly answered Norman that the reason why is that those are same spiders devoured their dimension's version of himself. Norman sarcastically said wonderful to Peter's answer, then asked him why the spiders called him boss. Again, Peter answers Norman nonchalantly, saying that Norman's version in the alternate dimension was their boss, a 6-limbed mad scientist and evil master. But Peter then assures him that his other version from that dimension is gone, as he blows himself out to take out a cyborg version of Peter who was riding a dinosaur version of Peter. Norman then blames himself for sarcastically asking such questions before activating the machine connected to Peter's helmet by lowering its lever. And in an instant, a powerful zap temporarily shuts off Peter's spider sense before it kicks back in instantaneously, making him jump out of the laboratory chair. Peter can now immediately sense a number of people nearby that are in danger. Norman tries to hold Peter by reminding him that he needs to collect data first, but Peter immediately jumps out of the window of the lab and bids farewell. Norman grumpily shouts that he will remotely monitor him from the lab instead. On a construction site somewhere, a worker fell off the building he was working on. His safety harness snapped and he was about to die until Spider-Man swooped in at the last minute to save him. Spider-Man brings the rescued worker to safety as his co-workers approach them. Kevin, The one Spider-Man just saved was amazed by his savior's action and asked him how Spidey did that. Peter apologizes to him, saying he would love to chat and stay, but his upgraded spider sense is telling him to go elsewhere, as he can feel more people in danger. A careless biker gets in the way of an oncoming truck. Thankfully, Spider-Man saves him at the last second from being mincemeat, but the biker is ungrateful to the superhero as he demands Spider-Man to pay for his damaged bike. Peter taunts him back as he declares that the biker will have difficulty finding him as there are like 100 spider people now. Meanwhile, a man is about to take a bite of the hot dog sandwich he has in his hand while Spider-Man slings it out from his hand with his web shooter. The surprised man said "Hey" to Spider-Man, to which he replied that the man would thank him later for it. Possibly the food had already perished. A woman, mindlessly walking while busy with her phone, was about to fall inside an open manhole when Spider-Man quickly covered the hole with his webs. Then he helps another person with an issue with his shoe, in which Peter assures him that he will get it back after an hour and welcomes him sarcastically. He then told himself that nobody except Aunt May appreciates his work, which he called using the suit's interface. Aunt May happily answers Peter's call, but not before asking him if he will cancel his attendance for their feast tonight in her home. She reminded Peter that she invited everyone they knew, including Anna Watson, Jonah Jameson, and the Robertsons. Peter then assured his aunt that he wouldn't miss this gathering, but comments that he thought it was just the two of them. Regardless, he was fine with it, saying the more, the merrier, and then asked Aunt May if his boss Norman could come over as he made an effort for his change to being good. Aunt May replies with a smile, saying to Peter that he could invite anyone he likes. She then told him that she was thrilled that he was trying to make each Thursday dinner night a thing for them, reminiscing that the last time they did something similar was when Peter was 14. Peter apologizes for that and promises to make an effort before excusing himself from the call. He is holding back a fallen helicopter with his webs, preventing it from crushing the people below. Meanwhile, in an unknown underground path, Electro casually walks around, reading the floor plan he stole from his former buddy Rudy. As he reads the paper in his hands, Electro says to himself that he will become filthy rich thanks to Rudy's simple plan. He then taunts him by saying he could afford to send flowers to his grave if he could only remember his last name. Arriving at his destination, he threw the paper plan aside. He faced a cabinet labeled as high voltage, saying that he could take out the vault security system once he overloads it with his powers. He then unleashed a barrage of lightning beams, saying there would be a power outage on the whole block and would ruin the power grid for miles, and he didn't care about it. Above ground, a pair of electrical workers witnesses the transformer of a power lines above crackled and exploded in blue electrical light. At first, they thought it was a freak power surge, not knowing it was an attack from Electro's powers. The snapped electrical lines were inches from the workers until Spider-Man kicked them out of the way, apologizing to them for not being gentle with his save. Unfortunately, the live electrical wires find Peter instead and zap him with a huge amount of electricity, making him scream out in pain. Somewhere inside the city, Bailey loudly yelped in pain as he felt Peter Parker's pain through their shared connection as Spider-Man. It was only for a moment, but Bailey definitely felt the pain that Peter felt. And he also felt something else that made Bailey think that Peter had screwed around so badly. Then it cut back to Norman inside Oscorp, who was worried and trying to contact Peter when he saw abnormally high readings from Peter's suit data. He says that what he had just experienced was impossible. He should have been dead and demands Peter to talk back to him to confirm his safety. Peter then replies in pain, holding his noggin with both hands, as he says that he can sense danger coming from everywhere at first, but correcting himself immediately afterwards. Peter falls to his knees and bends over due to the overwhelming pain he is experiencing at that moment. His mind is filled with images of random people being shown in danger. As Peter determines that his pain is coming from sensing everyone inside the city, his out of control spider sense is sensing them all at once. So that's a wrap on this episode. How do you guys feel about Spider-Man having the entire city range for his spider sense? Subscribe so you don't miss out on the next episode. This is Carl and see you in the next one.